Ahoy! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another Intel Report, the series that looks at the units in Command & Conquer Rivals the same way we all look at E3 reveals, with a mixture of excitement and awe, and with a deep-seated fear that what we're watching is going to be utterly broken on release. There's less Keanu Reeves in this video though.
You're breathtaking! You're all breathtaking!
Before we begin, I am not paid for these videos and my channel is supported entirely by ad revenue and my Patreon supporters. Big shout out to them. If you enjoy this video, hit like and consider subscribing, as these both really help me too. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and come join the Gaming Galleon Discord for further discussion. Finally, if you're eager for more Rivals content, check out the rest of my channel for tips, tricks, unit and gameplay analysis, and survival guides. Speaking of survival, today's Intel Report is looking at the latest unit to join the Brotherhood of Nod, the Scavengers. In the yellow zones, you learn that survival always comes first, and Scavengers have been raised to find value in anything they find. The Brotherhood of Nod, who frequently recruit from the yellow zones, pay the Scavengers for their salvaged goods, creating a beneficial relationship between the two parties. The Scavengers are always on the lookout for a bit of coin, even if it means benefiting of the deaths of enemies and allies alike. Alongside the Mutant Marauders, the Scavengers are a reference to the enigmatic faction, the Forgotten, and a basic infantry trained in the hand of Nod. They're quite nimble on their feet and are armed with missile launchers not dissimilar to those carried by GDI missile squads, giving Scavengers a similar combat role to Nod laser squads. Scavengers are effective against both air and ground vehicles, and their individual damage is similar to that of a laser trooper, but there are only 3 members in a squad of Scavengers, making them very susceptible to anti-infantry firepower. Even Rhinos and Talons will tear Scavengers down quickly, let alone more intense threats like Venoms, Shatterers, or Chem Buggies. As with laser squads, even basic riflemen and militants will deal with them very effectively. Like with Fanatics, however, to look purely at what Scavengers can kill is to miss their point entirely. With Scavengers, it's not about what they can kill, but it's what happens when units are killed near them that gives them their awesome power. You see, every time a unit, friend or foe, dies in a tile adjacent to one of your Scavenger units, you immediately earn 10 Tiberium. It should be noted that this bonus is earned when a whole unit is wiped out, not on individual squad members, meaning the bonus triggers once when a bike squad is completely destroyed only. Secondly, Scavengers of course do not earn 10 Tiberium from their own death, but any Scavenger units nearby do benefit from other Scavenger units dying. Thirdly, this ability stacks. If you have 2 Scavenger units adjacent to a unit that dies, you will earn 20 Tiberium. Assumedly, the second squad grabs all the loot that the first squad missed. This makes Scavengers a powerful tool in the hands of a canny player. Against the right units, like tanks or anti-vehicle aircraft like Mohawks, Shatterers are not only effective, but earn a reward on completion of their task. But hide them behind some of your own units, and Scavengers suddenly become terrifyingly useful. Consider a unit of Cyber Wheels. They move into position to gun down some infantry, when along comes a missile squad to clear them up or something similar. The Cyber Wheels are destroyed, but the nearby Scavengers pick up the pieces, covering the Cyber Wheels' cost. With 2 Scavenger units nearby, the death of those Cyber Wheels is actually a profit. Consider that your opponent chooses to bike rush you early on. In response, you build 2 Scavenger squads that blast their bike squads to pieces. Not only does your opponent fail in taking your Harvester, not only does your Harvester keep earning Tiberium while this rush goes on, but theoretically you've earned a possible 40 extra Tiberium from the failed rush, giving you enough to switch up into War Factory or pull out more expensive units like Mutant Marauders earlier than you normally would be able to. You've turned a bike rush into a major economic advantage. You see, this is where Scavengers' true value lies, pun wholeheartedly intended, in helping you finance your army. If you want straight up killy firepower, stick with the cheaper laser squad, you will do better. But if you can figure out how to use these girls effectively, you too can become a filthy war profiteer. Facing opposing Scavengers can be a daunting task. You need to kill them quickly, or anything else you destroy en route becomes funding for your opponent. Any anti-infantry unit can deal with them quickly, vehicle or otherwise, but do note that cyber wheels and war dogs will need numbers. Essentially, treat scavengers the same way you would a slightly injured laser squad when figuring out what to send at them, and you'll do fine. The issue comes if your opponent manages to get other units in front of them. This does require a bit of forethought. Of course, snipers will take out hiding scavengers in a single volley, but you may need to lure scavengers out with vehicle targets for them, then send in your anti-infantry units unless you have drones or venoms on hand. Strong arms turret can be another good option for facing them if you can pull it up behind ranks and gun them down that way. Like how these guys sound and interested to see what kind of deck they work well in? Fret not, dear viewer, I have 2 deck suggestions for you that showcase how to best utilise scavengers, and the usual featured replay showing scavengers in action lies just beyond that. Now the first deck suggestion is one that I can't quite believe that I finally get to recommend. Yes, it's a 2-2-2 tech deck that I'm calling the Scavenger tech deck. Yeah, I'm not great at naming things. I recommend running this as a Hand of Nod opener, with militants scouting the way. They'll happily deal with enemy infantry, though a 2v1 situation will be needed against enemy flame or shockwave troopers of course. Against the War Factory opening, you can shift up to Scavengers, and if your opponent really starts forcing heavy infantry on you, by which I mean snipers, chem warriors, or shockwave and flame spam, you can punish this by switching to Cyber Wheels in the War Factory. The same goes for if your opponent decides that air is their next move, you have attack bikes. The aim here is to keep your Scavengers nearby for every death. Micro them around to profit from every death that you can, and you'll soon find that you have more than enough funds to shift up into a Temple of Nod before the first missile launches, and with only 1 harvester. Here I'd recommend having Widowmakers as your first tech unit, not just because I adore Widowmakers, but because they're cheap and deal with both air and infantry really well. They're a great unit to get into position, and then bring the second tech unit to bear, the indomitable Basilisk. Why Basilisks? Well, they're cheap enough to shift into fairly quickly after Widowmakers, they twin nicely with Widowmakers, both countering each other's weaknesses, and being 2 range, they can hide behind the Widowmakers to nuke vehicles. Other options do work here too, perhaps artillery or maybe even rockworms. What? Am I seriously recommending rockworms? Well, yeah, I did say maybe, but they could work here. I don't know, let me know if you try rockworms. Now, I'd recommend Seth here for the ability to pull up flame troopers exactly where you need them and to steal pads, but Oksana is a good option here too. Kane is just too expensive competing with your tech units for Tiberium, and ultimately Basilisks do the same job, but better. Jade, she just has no synergy here. Now the second deck I would suggest is a variation of the Nod No Harvester deck. As the name suggests, this deck operates without a harvester, freeing up a population cap slot and meaning you can always outnumber your opponent. The lack of harvester also removes the need for you to ever defend a harvester from attack, and has the added benefit of experiencing the hilarity when your opponent opens with a rush or goes harvester hunting mid-game. As someone who's done this against the No Harvester deck, it's a bit of a mind-blown moment. That's how they were able to constantly push out units. Gotcha. This brutal deck opens with the War Factory and Cyber Wheels. If your opponent has opened infantry, then you can build a second Cyber Wheel squad to assist with whatever it is. Rifles obviously go down quickly to this, but you're also ready for the inevitable missile squad. From here, you can open the Hand of Nod for Fanatics that will both help with anti-infantry duty and provide buffs to your other units as they die. Make sure to watch my intel report on Fanatics to get the full lowdown on these weirdos, link up above. Scavengers are also then able to help you deal with enemy vehicles and to start raking in the money as your opponent kills off your units. Be diabolical. Remember, a Cyber Wheels unit that dies next to Scavengers costs nothing, but still did damage. A Fanatic squad that dies near Scavengers gives out its buff and Tiberium, woohoo! And a Fanatic buffed Scavenger squad is quite scary against vehicle and air units. Speaking of air, the War Factory also contains attack bikes to deal with early aircraft threats and to punch away any vehicles that your Scavengers struggle with. Let your Scavengers engage and the bikes finish them off, and, well, I can sure you can see where this is going. Scavengers make it rain. Yeah. The War Factory also then contains stealth tanks. These give a great punch against vehicles and air units that your attack bikes and Scavengers might struggle against. Finally, laser drones in the air tower round out this deck with a unit that can clear away tanks, enemy harvesters, and other ground vehicles quickly, especially when Fnatic buffed. And don't forget to have those scavengers nearby to pick up the scrap they leave on death or on killing. With scavengers lurking around your force, everything that you kill or that your opponent kills can become more money in your pocket. Use them to engage enemy units if needed, but their main use is to scrounge the battlefield for spare parts for Tiberium. Your lack of harvester means that you always have the upper hand when it comes to how many units you can field. You always have numbers on your side, so use this to your advantage and gang up on your opponent. Dominate the early and mid game. Keep those pads charging at all times, and it will all be over long before your opponent can bring out the big toys that this deck might struggle against. Played right, nothing short of an Avatar or Mammoth can stop this deck, and you just will not give your opponent the chance to reach those. So with all of that said and done, as promised, we come to the point of each intel report where I showcase a replay featuring the new unit. Without further ado, let's jump right in. In this particular replay, both of our players are actually running Scavengers in their deck. On the left, Jade Zion is running the Nod No Harvester deck that we've just discussed, and on the right hand side, Jen Silos is running the 3/3 War Factory variant of the Jade Chem deck, but notably with the Laser Squad swapped out for Scavengers. Now with no Harvester in this particular deck, Jade knows that she can go straight into an aggressive bullying of the pads, but also has to pull out her own Scavengers very quickly. On spotting the Cyber Wheels, Jen brings out his own Scavengers. They make short work of those Cyber Wheels, but not before the Cyber Wheels do a decent dent of damage to the Scavengers, and when the Cyber Wheels are destroyed, congratulations, Jade gets her money back thanks to the Scavengers lurking. The top pad now has Jade running some Fanatics up there to finish off the Scavengers, but not before Jen can bring out some Chem Warriors, both to the north and south pad. This is going to be fairly painful. Now ultimately the Scavengers Jade has there at the bottom are collecting things. That pads are blue, but I don't think, no. With at the north side there, those Cyber Wheels were buffed by the dying Fanatics. That buff was enough for them to rinse through those Chem Warriors and to take that pad for Jade, securing that first missile. At the south, Jade's Cyber Wheels again are still just slowly taking care of that Chem Warrior. Jade is trying to keep her Scavengers nearby to get as much out of this as she can, just as she's just earned a little bit of Tiberium from the top pad. Jen, it appears, has had more than enough of these blasted infantry units causing damage, and so brings out his own Chem Buggy. Unfortunately, Jade spots this early, deals some heavy damage to it, and there it goes, down goes that Chem Buggy to the Scavengers, earning Jade 10 Tiberium before it can even get a cloud set up. That top pad looks to be going with the Chem Warriors running up. Is it going to be contested? No, Jade lets the Chem Warriors on the pad. Something needs to be done about that. The bottom pad is being blocked. Both of the guys at the north pad are earning as much Tiberium as they can from killing everything. Jen has taken that pad for blue control, is charging it comfortably from self, and in comes a Catalyst missile that, yo-ho! There goes that entire top pad and half the bottom pad. Unfortunate, what a, whoa! Jade pulls up a beautiful drill pod there to distract Jen's bikes long enough to secure that top pad. It's not quite long enough to launch it, sadly, and the missile does end up going back to yellow. Jen, however, does look like he's a little bit on the ropes here, but he manages to pull into that north pad. The bottom pad, those bikes are going to not lasting that long. The top pad is Jade's as well. Here comes that missile. Unless Jen can do something super quick, it's not going to happen. That missile goes to Jade, proving that you can bully away. No Harvester means you can outnumber your opponents really nicely. You can constantly keep that pressure up. Well played, both guys. I will be trying out that Jade deck.